Oh, hi there again, folks. Welcome to another edition of Avalanche Storytime, presented to you by Bender's Bar and Grill.
This is Jim Armstrong, former sports columnist at the Denver Post. These days, I own Bender's up in Westminster in the Westminster Promenade Ice Center. If you don't think we're the preeminent hockey bar in the metro area, you haven't seen the framed Original Six jerseys above the bar. We have poutine on the menu. That must make us a hockey bar. All kinds of good stuff on the menu. Come on up to Bender's and check us out.
I'm your host, Adrian Dater, and today we're going to go back to 1997, July 28th, in fact. This was the day the New York Rangers tried to steal away Joe Sakic with a predatory 3-year front-loaded free agent contract offer. They almost got away with it. Almost. Now, let's back up a second. What happened here? The Avalanche in 1997, as we all remember, were Stanley Cup championship team. Things were going great. The summer of love in Denver. First championship team ever, right? But Joe Sakic was due a new contract. His contract was up. He was a restricted free agent. And the New York Rangers saw that he was a restricted free agent. And for a team that had just lost their own captain, center Mark Messier, to the Vancouver Canucks as a free agent, they took a look around the NHL landscape and said, I wonder who we can get to replace Messier. Joe Sakic, sitting there on the open market, sort of. Let's figure out a way to give him such a massive contract offer. Let's front load this thing so much that the owners of the Avalanche, who at that time were still struggling a little bit financially, the ownership group at the time was named Ascent Entertainment Group, whose business was primarily still movie rentals and hotel rooms. Cash flow business, but even at that time, business was starting to slow down a little bit in that time. And Ascent had some cash flow problems at the time. So the Rangers took a look at this and said, we're going to give a 3-year, $21 million offer to the captain of the Avalanche. But here's the kicker. They front-loaded it with a $15 million signing bonus. So Sakic was guaranteed now, because of this offer made in writing to him and his agent, Don Baisley, to be guaranteed a $2 million salary for the 97-98 season and the next 3 seasons, 2 seasons after that actually, and also, by the way, a $15 million cash payment up front that was due with whoever he signed with. Sakic saw the offer, and as he said to Baisley at the time, well, it'd be kind of stupid to turn this down now, wouldn't I? So, he signed it. Now, under the terms of the contracts at that time, any person who signed a Group 2 free agent, a restricted free agent offer from another team, the team that still had that player, in this case the Avalanche, had 1 week to decide to either match the offer or accept what would have been 5 first-round draft picks from the Rangers. Now, at the time, it would have seemed like a no-brainer, right? That the Avalanche are going to match it, and no problem. Joe Sakic retains his spot with the Avalanche, and then go on their merry way. But again, don't forget about the financial troubles that Ascent had at the time. So here's what happened. After a couple days of pretty intense worry among the Ascent group, they finally started to come up with a plan to get him back. Now, it turned out one of the things that Ascent had to do was give 6% of their stake in the new, still-to-be-completed, still-to-be-built Pepsi Center. They sold 6% of the arena to a company called Liberty Media for some of that cash up front, some of that $15 million up front that they could then take to give to Sakic. So that's what happened. 1 week later, on August 5th of '97, the Avalanche formally announced that they had matched the offer of the New York Rangers in all its terms. So Sakic, on that day, agreed to sign again with the Avalanche, or the Avalanche agreed to match the offer, making the contract binding. And the deal was done. Pierre Lacroix, the Avalanche general manager at the time, who had been kind of hemming and hawing a little bit with Sakic in the negotiations. There were reports that he was only offering $5 million a year at this time. Sakic wanted $6 million, okay? Turns out the Rangers gave him an offer for $7 million. 3 years, $21 million, which, by the way, made him the highest paid player in the NHL at that moment. Pierre Lacroix had to take a $15 million check with Charlie Lyons' signature on it, the principal owner of the Avalanche at the time. Had to go over to Sakic's house that night and hand deliver that check. Probably a little sheepishly, but it turned out all's well that ends well with this story. Sakic, despite saying that he was ready to be a Ranger, talking about even the school system in New York at that time, talking about becoming a new teammate, how great it would be of Wayne Gretzky at the time, who was a Ranger. When the Avs matched the offer, everything was all fine again. Sakic always wanted to stay in Colorado, you know, the whole drill here. Nothing to see here, let's move on. So that's what happened. This was a very, very crucial time in Avalanche history. It kind of spurred things on to the completion of the Pepsi Center a little bit faster. There was some red tape at the time. All this stuff that seemed awful at the time may have done the Avs a favor at the time. The Avalanche were sort of forced into doing a lot of decisions that they're hemming and hawing on. One postscript to this story: when the Avalanche decided to match the offer, and they knew they were going to tell the Rangers, sorry, you're not getting our guy, Charlie Lyons sent a framed photo to the Rangers general manager at the time, Dave Checketts. It's a photo of Nelson Rockefeller, the former vice president of the United States, who in 1968, as a candidate, gave the middle finger to some protesters at the 1968 Chicago Democratic Convention. Charlie Lyons worked as an aide in Nelson Rockefeller's office back in the day. So Lyons sent the picture of the middle finger essentially to Checketts as the way of saying, sorry, you didn't get our guy, and oh, by the way, here's a framed photo of a guy giving you the finger. So needless to say, there was no love lost there between the Avs and Rangers for a while, and probably still isn't to this day in some ways. That story and 99 others are in this book right here that some guy wrote named Dater. Pick it up in your local bookstore, Amazon maybe. For BSN Denver, I'm Adrian Dater. Until next story time.
If you're a football fan or a hockey fan, you got to check out Bender's off of Highway 36, just off of Church Ranch Boulevard. 32 beers on tap, served in chilled glasses. We're a watch site for Coloradans for Nebraska and Steeler Nation of North Denver. So if you're a Husker fan or a Steeler fan, you're a recent transplant to Denver, come on up to Bender's and check us out.